As manager of Chelsea Football Club, I've called this press conference to announce that we want you, the fans at home and abroad, to support someone else.
Yo people, welcome back to the YouTube channel. You already know what time it is. It's time for another video. It's time for your Chelsea versus Newcastle preview, kinda. Because again, once again, a dead rubber is in front of us in this fixture and there's more talk in the town. There's more intriguing things to discuss in terms of the future of the club and the news circulating. But before we get into all that, make sure you smash up the like button, make sure you subscribe if you're new, and let's get straight into the news. Now listen, we have to talk about Ugarte because Ugarte right now, the rumours are circling. Of course, that release clause is there, 52 million. 60 million euros, and yes, PSG are once again the ones that we're going up against. Now, in terms of what we have to offer versus them, we are not in the strongest of positions unless this player is desperate to play Premier League football, which some people tell me he is. He does want to play Premier League football, but I haven't seen it or heard it confirmed. But of course, PSG, this is feeling like an Hakimi 2.0. Hopefully his wife is not, if he has a wife, he's only 22, hopefully he doesn't have a wife, but you know what I mean? If he does, hopefully she doesn't have her heart set on Paris, because we all know how that went last time. Now, when it comes down to PSG, they can offer the Champions League football, they can offer the same, if not more money than us, so it's all down to that Premier League interest from his side and his camp. Of course, there is some relationship that we formed with, obviously, George Mendes, who is one of his agents, and we know Todd Boehly last summer was kind of trying to work that and trying to build that relationship between him and the agent. But again, like I said, it's about that Premier League interest. Now, I've spoken about Ugarte on a midfielder video before, and I've spoken about our options and the targets. And of course, there's more players out there. There's Fofana in France. There's all these other different types of midfielders that you could look at for this potential position. But the main targets are obviously the Caicedos, the Ugartes, the Lavias. And, you know, those are the main guys. Now, for me, how does this work? If you sign in Dreamland, you can talk about Caicedo and Ugarte, and then maybe between those two and Enzo, you have a double potential pivot in front of a back four with Nkunku playing ahead. Now, if we're looking at a 4-3-3, of course, those three all together is the dream scenario, but then where does Nkunku fit? He's not really a winger, and is he going to play up front? That's not his strongest position. He's been playing off the main number 9, and all of the reports talk about us signing a striker, trying to sign a actual outright striker, and not really going with this false 9 pretender. You know, we've seen Kai Havertz play this role, we've seen Felix play this role off on occasion. It sounds like we want to sign a striker. It sounds like we want to sign a finisher. Our finishing this season has been woeful in the last game. Somebody's got to put the ball in the back of the net. If you put a striker on the end of Mudryk and Kai Havertz's chances, you have a pretty good confident feeling that they're going to be in the back of the net. Now, for me, that means that, of course, Nkunku's got to play in that 10, and that means you've got to go with a 2 just behind. Now, like I said, you could float between Enzo, Ugarte and Caicedo, and then you've got the young players to back it up if Andre Santos's work permit comes through over the summer. And you've got Carney as well, who showed himself to be very capable in that double pivot, off, at least on the ball. Off the ball, of course, there'd be a lot to learn defensively. But maybe he could play 10, same with Andre Santos, depending on what Poch thinks, trusting those 2 players defensively. But in the Premier League. So for me, listen, Ugarte is one of those players where we can't claim to know crazy amounts about him, right? Who's watching the Portuguese league week in, week out? We've seen him participate in Champions League group stages against Tottenham. We've seen him against Arsenal on these watch-alongs. But for £52 million release clause, like I said before, it represents an opportunity for us to get somebody in early doors before the bidding wars start for potentially Caicedo and other options as well, Lavia, etc. Now, for me personally, we need to get this sorted early doors, because if we don't, and we end up going throughout the window without having this signing signed up, and then we're starting to get into a complicated situation where potentially we're going to go for panic buyers. We know this has happened before. Chelsea have always looked at this position in recent windows as clear need. Now, sometimes it's not been a priority, but then what happens towards the back end of the window? We start seeing Zakaria's on loan. We start seeing Saul Niguez is on loan. That cannot happen this time. A lot of people are saying we need 2 players, let alone 1. If you don't get 1 in, it's an absolute failure of a window. I don't care what you do in other positions. If you do not get that midfielder to balance it out of Enzo, that is a failure of a window. I don't care if you get the goalkeeper, striker, get me glitz, glamour. If you do not get that midfielder, it is a outright failure. We have to get the midfielder, especially when you look at the market and the amount of players available. You have to get that midfielder. So for me, it's absolutely imperative, and just hedge your safe bet. That is a player that, like I said, there's no negotiation. Now, it seems like Chelsea and PSG are trying to, soften the blow of the release clause and trying to do it in installments. Chelsea have the advantage of having Andre Santos in their ranks, potentially. There's been talk of maybe a loan deal for him to go out to Sporting for the season, and Ugarte comes the other way, obviously for a fee. But like I said, same with Cucurella and Levi Colwill in a way for Brighton last summer. There's a softening of the blow by giving them a player on the exchange. Now, that would be brilliant because in terms of, speaking the language, in terms of acclimatizing, Andre Santos could probably acclimatize to the Portuguese lifestyle quicker than he could to the English lifestyle, kind of bridges the gap and, gives him a development plan, and minutes is critical, gives him a chance to play football before he comes to Chelsea. Because if I'm looking at who I'm loaning out between him and Carney, I'm trying to keep Carney. I think Carney has maybe surprised a few people with his performance at Old Trafford, but it's not really a surprise. I mean, we know the talent we've purchased, right? From Aston Villa, we know he's a talent. We didn't purchase him for no reason. It's just about giving that opportunity. And now that I've seen him again in that game and playing in a more deeper role than I expected, of course, there's a long way to go. I do feel a little bit more comfortable with letting go of, I personally predicted that there's no chance we're getting rid of Mount, Gallagher and Loftus-Cheek. Now, I've been very clear on my Gallagher stance in recent days, over the whole season, but in recent days I've ramped it up just to make it completely clear to you that I'm not playing games here. He's got to go. He's got to be sold. We've got money that we can take from this player in terms of a massive profit for our FFP. He wasn't purchased for anything. It's going straight onto the balance books. For me, that's an opportunity that you take with him, and you get money in. Mason Mount's future is looking bleak. It's now a saga that I'm tired of, and it looks like he's on the way out. Every single report is talking about the confidence, and the mood around the place is dropping every single day about his future. And to be honest, at this point, like I said, if he does go, it looks like maybe with a bit of a development, a little bit of coaching, a little bit of trust, a bit of faith, Carney could be next up, and I'd love to see an opportunity for him. So I'm not even going to cry about it, like I've said before. And Loftus-Cheek, we've spoken about AC Milan before. Hopefully that deal does get done, because like I said, with Gusto coming in, I don't feel like Loftus-Cheek's options are as clear for the right wing back spot, especially if we're playing a 4, and central midfield if we're signing maybe 1, maybe even 2 players. There really is just no space for the lad. Now, so that situation solves itself for me. I'm cool with all 3 homegrown players to go. Are we going to have a bit of a homegrown issue, people will say? Well, I don't think so. You've got Carney, you've got Lewis Hall, you've got Colwill coming back into the mix. You've got Ian Maatsen that we need to talk about as well. And that's on top of Reece James and Amando Broja, who I don't think is going to be loaned out of an ACL coming off the back. He's going to want to be, Chelsea are going to want to look after him in terms of the medic side. I'm not sure if we're best placed to help anybody on the medical side, but so we've got homegrown players. Let's not kid ourselves. Sterling, of course, and we can go through the other talents. We've got homegrown players, so you don't need to worry about that. Now, for me, I want to move to that left back position quickly because it's becoming a little bit of a cluster. F word. Ian Maatsen, Chilwell, Cucurella and Lewis Hall. I mean, you've got 4 options there, and really you only need 2. You don't want a stat pad. Remember when we had Emerson, Alonso and Chilwell all at the same time? It was an absolute mess. We don't need 4, all right? And there's no legislating for Cucurella playing left side centre back in a 3, because we're most likely going to play a 4. And even if we are playing a 3, I'm putting Levi Colwill ahead of him and Badiashile ahead of him. And let's not forget Koulibaly's here as well. So this side of the pitch is becoming so congested, so just insufferable. I mean, in terms of, it's suffocating, it's claustrophobic. I can't breathe. There's too many players here. It's becoming a mess. And Chilwell's just signed a new contract extension. Now, let's be honest, contract extensions don't mean everything, but it feels like with the mood of the way that was posted and put out there, that is a long term, he's staying, right? Minimum, he's going to be here next season. He's injury prone. I do believe that there's question marks to be asked if he doesn't regain fitness next season, because we do have a lot of talent on that side. And yeah, I don't think he's of a level where it's like he's untouchable. He's not world class. He can be world class if he plays at his best, but he's not an untouchable. Ian Maatsen, I've got a lot of hope for that kid. He's a very, very talented player. He's had a great season at Burnley, but he's only got 1 year left on his contract. So for people that are going to tell me in the comments that we can loan out Ian Maatsen, we cannot loan out Ian Maatsen unless he signs a new contract. So we have to either sign him up to a new contract or we have to sell him because he's running out in 2024. Now, he is going to be looking at his future with all of these players, with Lewis Hall's burst into the team, and he's going to be thinking to himself, am I going to get game time here? So maybe he'll be sold for a profit. We know that homegrown players are at risk because, like I said, the profit goes straight onto the balance of the books, and FFP 100 million reportedly needs to be raised. We don't really know the real figures. So it's probably going to be one of Ian Maatsen or Lewis Hall. You're probably not going to get both. Lewis Hall, he is showing signs that he's got potential to really give a good go next season, I think, in this team. Again, chances that he's creating going forward, the crossing. I mean, we have been crying out for somebody to overlap, for somebody to contribute out wide and create opportunities down that left-hand side. We know Cucurella has been awful going forward this season, and Lewis Hall has turned up to the party. The balls that he's whipping in for Gallagher in the game against Man City, back post header, for Mudryk, for Kai Havertz, it's just good to see. It's good to see some sort of crossing ability and some accuracy on that side of the pitch when Chilwell's not there. And I wouldn't even say, you know, Chilwell's the most incredible crosser in the world. It's more of those underlapping runs and ball striking ability to score goals that we look at him for. So I'm really happy with that. And at this point, I'm not going to get greedy because I've told you before about stacking up on two young players on the same position. It tends to be a difficult one in terms of keeping them for 10 plus years, in terms of battling it out. Unless you've got an injury-prone player like Reece James with gusto, it can work. Obviously, we're going to see next season. But Lewis Hall and Ian Maatsen, neither of them are injury-prone. They're both going to want minutes. And we've got Chilwell and Cucurella. How are we going to move on one of those senior left-backs? Because let's be honest. Listen, I like Cucurella. I think there's a player in there. But if you're telling me 62 million, is he 62 million better than Lewis Hall? Is he 62 million better than Ian Maatsen? Oh, hell no. Oh, hell to the no. Damn, no way. So what are we going to do with that? Because that's a messy situation. And I want it resolved. I'm not going to lie to you. That needs to be resolved. And I want to keep one of the young players. I do. I really want to keep one of the young players. I think Lewis Hall and Ian Maatsen, and some people may kill me for saying this, I think Lewis Hall and Ian Maatsen are technically, in terms of their technical ability, I think they have higher ceilings than both of our seniors. Chilwell and Cucurella, if you look at the way they are and what their level is, and you look at Lewis Hall and you look at Ian Maatsen, I think technical ability wise, if you was to coach those two young players, I think they can overstep the two seniors, both of them. I think both of them have the potential. Now, Lewis Hall defensively does need some coaching. It's clear, we saw that against Man United. But like I said, remember, he's a midfielder in the academy. It's going to take some time. But the way that left backs are evolving, full backs are evolving in this modern game, listen, they're basically becoming midfielders. So it's killing two birds with one stone as far as I'm concerned. I've got a lot of hope for those two. So yeah, it's a sticky one. I'm not going to lie, it's a sticky one. But in terms of the match, obviously, coming up, we know Newcastle are a good team. We don't need to ramble on about that. They're favourites. Probably going to lose again, let's be real. Got a very good team. Yes, they're high flying and confident. They've already made Champions League, but why would they want to disgrace themselves on the final day when they can, you know, spoil the party? Last game at the Bridge for Lamps, probably want to come and cause a problem for us. I'm not going to get into all of that, yeah? Expected teams, my team on your screens. I think Carney needs to play. Great performance against Man United, or at least a very good performance. Good performance. Let's see him again. I want to see Enzo, obviously, he was brilliant. I want to see Lewis Hall, of course. Madueke and Mudryk, I know they weren't brilliant, but let's just give them that back-to-back game. Maybe, just give them back-to-back. Now, some people will say now they've been a bit reactionary off the back of that game and say they can't both start together, whatever you want. But for me, this is a game where it means nothing. It's just about giving the future potential, giving the players for Poch time to work together on that pitch and build up chemistry and understanding. It's a pre-season game, in my opinion. Okay, it's a pre-season, extended pre-season, and those two are definitely part of the future. I'm giving them a go. I'm not trying to start Ziyech. I'm not trying to start Pulisic. I'm not interested. I want to play players that are going to be here. Datro Fofana definitely has a shout to start too, and I'm here for it. Do you know what? Like I said, I don't think he's going to be here next year because we're going to sign a new striker. I think Broja, I think he'll go out on loan, but let's just play him anyway. Who cares? So there you go. You know, I'm going to give you that Datro start. And like I said, the defence, Fofana, please concentrate and fix up because they got some really good forwards in Isak and Callum Wilson. And if you are basically handing them the football in terms of your passing, they will punish and you will look a right fool once again. So focus, my dear. So yeah, that's the mentality for me going into this game. But I wanted to talk to you about that midfield conundrum, and I wanted to talk to you about that left back conundrum. There's other midfielders out there. I don't think if we don't get Ugarte that the world has fallen. There are Paulinias at Fulham. There are Lavias. There are Fofanas in France. There are many midfielders out there. Many. Caicedo, of course. There's many. However, everyone that goes off the market, the PTSD of Sal Niguez and Zakaria comes straight back to me, flowing through my veins, and I don't want to see that, because if that happens again, if we do an Arthur Melo, I will explode, I will combust, I will lose my rag, and you don't want me to lose my rag, yeah? Don't fuck with me. If you get the reference. Big up your damn selves. Make sure you smash up the likes. Spaces are crazy. In a bit, people. Peace.